She was married to a fool. Not the kind of fool people joke about in passing, but a man whose pride was as dangerous as a drawn sword. A man so stubborn, so reckless, that his own servants feared disaster would follow wherever he went. Yet she was different. Wise where he was arrogant, calm where he was impulsive, compassionate where he was cruel. And though she lived in a wealthy household, surrounded by servants, livestock, and abundance, she could never have imagined that one ordinary day would place her between a future king and a river of innocent blood. Because while armies marched and kingdoms rose and fell, God was preparing a woman whose courage would stop a massacre, preserve a destiny, and alter the course of Israel's history. Her name was Abigail. This is not simply the story of a wealthy man's wife. It is the story of how wisdom overcame wrath, how humility defeated pride, and how God used one faithful woman to preserve a destiny that would bless an entire nation. Long before David wore the crown of Israel, he lived as an outlaw. Though the prophet Samuel had poured oil upon his head and declared that he would one day become king, the promise had not yet become reality. King Saul still occupied the throne, and his heart had become consumed with jealousy. The songs of victory that echoed through Israel praised David's courage more than Saul's achievements, and every celebration of David's success deepened the king's hatred. Again and again, Saul attempted to kill the young man who had once soothed him with the gentle sound of a harp. David had every opportunity to surrender to bitterness, yet he refused to raise his hand against the Lord's anointed. Instead, he fled into the wilderness with a growing band of loyal followers, men who had left behind comfortable lives to stand beside the one they believed God had chosen. Life in the wilderness was nothing like the peaceful fields where David had once watched his father's sheep. The caves were cold, the hills were unforgiving, and every sunrise carried uncertainty. Food was often scarce. Water had to be found among rocky valleys. Every distant cloud of dust could mean that Saul's soldiers were drawing near. Yet in those difficult years, David's character was being shaped. The shepherd boy who had defeated Goliath was becoming a leader, not through comfort, but through hardship. God often prepares his servants in hidden places before bringing them into public purpose. Every cave became a classroom. Every trial became another lesson in patience, trust, and dependence upon the Lord. During this season, David and his men traveled through the wilderness near the region of Maon and Carmel, a fertile area known for its prosperous landowners and enormous flocks of sheep. Among the wealthiest men living there was a man named Nabal. His possessions were extraordinary. He owned thousands of sheep and goats, enough to make him one of the richest men in that part of Judah. His servants worked tirelessly across the hillsides, tending livestock that represented immense prosperity. To anyone looking from the outside, Nabal appeared blessed beyond measure. His barns were full, his fields were productive, and his household lacked nothing money could buy. Yet wealth often hides what only character reveals. The scriptures describe Nabal with striking honesty. He was harsh in his dealings. He was crude, selfish, and difficult to reason with. His very name meant fool, and sadly, his life reflected it. He possessed riches, but lacked wisdom. He had abundance, but no generosity. He commanded servants, yet failed to earn their respect. Those who worked for him obeyed because they had no choice, not because they admired the man they served. Living in the same household was his wife, Abigail. Everything about her stood in sharp contrast to her husband. The Bible describes her as both intelligent and beautiful, but her greatest beauty was not found in her appearance. It was found in her discernment. She possessed a calm spirit that remained steady even in difficult circumstances. She understood people. She knew when to speak and when to remain silent. She recognized danger before it arrived and sought peace wherever possible. Though married to a man whose temper often created conflict, Abigail had not allowed his bitterness to poison her own heart. She chose wisdom every day, even when surrounded by foolishness. Meanwhile, David's men occupied the nearby wilderness, where Nabal's shepherds grazed their flocks. Those hills were dangerous. Raiders frequently attacked isolated shepherds, stealing livestock and leaving devastation behind. A wealthy flock was an attractive target for thieves who cared little for the lives of those protecting it. Yet something unusual happened while David's men remained in the area. Instead of becoming another threat, they became protectors. Though David and his followers often lacked food themselves, they refused to steal from Nabal. Instead, they guarded his shepherds day and night. Whenever danger approached, David's warriors stood like a wall around the flocks. They defended what did not belong to them, asking nothing in return. The shepherds noticed it. The servants noticed it. Everyone who worked among the fields knew that David's presence had brought peace to the region. Livestock remained safe. Raiders stayed away. Months passed without loss because an army of fugitives chose
integrity over desperation. Then came sheep shearing season. Throughout ancient Israel, sheep shearing was more than a business event. It was a festival of thanksgiving. After months of labor, families celebrated the increase God had provided. Tables overflowed with food. Wine flowed generously. Music filled the air. It was also a season when prosperous landowners were expected to show kindness toward workers, travelers, and those who had served them faithfully. Generosity was considered an honorable expression of gratitude for God's blessings. David knew this custom well. Recognizing the goodwill his men had shown toward Nabal's household, he decided to send several trusted young men with a respectful request. They did not carry swords drawn for battle, they carried words of peace. David instructed them to greet Nabal courteously, to bless his household, and to remind him that his shepherds had suffered no harm while under David's protection. Then they were to humbly ask for whatever provisions Nabal was willing to provide. The messengers arrived exactly as David had instructed. They spoke with honor and respect. They wished Nabal peace. They reminded him of the safety his shepherds had enjoyed. Finally, they requested food for David and the men who had protected his flocks for so many months. For a brief moment, everything rested upon Nabal's response. A simple act of gratitude could strengthen friendship. A generous meal could bless hundreds of weary men.
One wise decision could prevent unimaginable tragedy, but pride rarely listens to reason. Instead of expressing thanks, Nabal's face hardened. His voice became filled with contempt as he mocked the very man who had protected his wealth. "Who is David?" he scoffed. "Who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away from their masters. Why should I take my bread, my water, and my meat that I have prepared for my shearers and give it to men who come from I do not know where?"
Every sentence revealed the condition of his heart. He spoke as though every blessing had come from his own hands. He forgot that God had given him his wealth. He ignored the protection David's men had provided. Gratitude never entered his mind. Only pride spoke. The messengers said nothing more. They quietly turned around and began the long journey back through the hills. With every step, they carried words that would ignite one of the most dangerous moments in David's life. When they reached David's camp, they repeated everything exactly as Nabal had said. The silence that followed was heavy. David listened carefully. Every insult settled deeply within him. Months of sacrifice, hunger, exhaustion, and faithful service had been repaid with mockery. The pressure of years spent running from Saul suddenly seemed to erupt all at once. His expression changed. The man who had refused to kill Saul when given the chance now found himself consumed by righteous anger, mixed with wounded pride. Then David spoke 4 words that sent fear through every man who heard them.
Every man a strap on his sword. The command echoed across the camp, and without hesitation, David's men reached for their weapons. Leather belts tightened around their waists as swords slid into their sheaths with the sharp sound of polished steel. The atmosphere changed in an instant. Only moments before, the camp had been calm, but now every face carried the grim determination of soldiers preparing for battle. 400 men stood ready to follow David wherever he led them. Another 200 remained behind to guard the supplies, while the rest began marching toward Carmel. David walked at the front of the company, his stride long and purposeful. His heart burned with anger. For months, he and his men had shown restraint. They could have taken sheep whenever hunger pressed against them. They could have demanded payment by force. Instead, they had chosen honor. They had protected Nabal's servants, defended his flocks, and asked only for a small measure of kindness in return. Yet Nabal had answered generosity with insults. As David marched through the rocky hills, his anger hardened into resolve. He spoke words that revealed how deeply the offense had wounded him. Surely it has been useless that I guarded everything this man owns in the wilderness, so that nothing belonging to him was missing. He has paid me back evil for good. Then, in the heat of his fury, David made a terrible vow. He swore that before morning, every male belonging to Nabal's household would be dead. Those words were unlike the David many had come to admire. This was the same man who had spared Saul's life inside the cave at En-Gedi, refusing to harm the king even when he had every opportunity. This was the shepherd who had trusted God to fight his battles. Yet even faithful people can stumble when anger clouds their judgment. David's emotions were beginning to lead him where his faith never would. Far behind the advancing army, news of Nabal's response spread quickly among the servants. They had watched David's men protect them for months. They knew these warriors were disciplined and honorable. They had eaten safely because David had chosen integrity instead of theft. They also knew David's reputation as a mighty warrior. If he decided to seek revenge, no one in Nabal's household would be able to stop him. One servant realized that time was running out. He did not go to Nabal. There was no point. Everyone in the household understood the master's stubbornness. His pride made him impossible to reason with, especially after insulting someone. Instead, the servant hurried to the one person he believed could still save them all. He found Abigail and spoke with urgency. His breathing was heavy from running, and fear filled his voice as he explained everything that had happened. David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, he said, but Nabal shouted insults at them. The servant paused only long enough to gather his thoughts before continuing. Those men were very good to us. They never mistreated us. Nothing was stolen from us the entire time we were with them in the fields. Day and night, they were like a wall around us while we cared for the sheep. We owe our safety to them. His eyes searched Abigail's face, hoping she understood the seriousness of the moment. Now think carefully about what you should do, because disaster is hanging over our master and everyone in this household. As for Nabal, he is so wicked that no one can reason with him." Those final words carried heartbreaking honesty. Even the servants had lost hope that Nabal would ever change. Abigail did not waste a single moment. She did not argue. She did not complain about her husband's foolishness. She did not surrender to fear. Wisdom recognizes that some moments demand immediate action. Without hesitation, she began giving instructions to the servants. They moved quickly through the estate, gathering provisions for a journey that could determine the fate of every person living there. 200 loaves of bread were prepared. Large containers of wine were filled. 5 sheep were carefully dressed and made ready. Roasted grain, raisins, and cakes of pressed figs were loaded onto donkeys. It was an impressive gift, generous enough to demonstrate sincere gratitude and deep respect. As servants hurried from one task to another, Abigail remained calm. She understood that gifts alone would not stop David's anger. Food could satisfy hunger, but only wisdom could soften a wounded heart. When everything was prepared, she instructed the servants to go ahead of her with the supplies. "I will follow you," she said quietly. She did not tell Nabal what she was doing. There was no time. Had she waited for his permission, the opportunity to prevent bloodshed would have disappeared. Sometimes doing what is right requires courage, even when others may not understand your actions. The caravan moved out through the winding paths that crossed the hills of Carmel. Dust rose beneath the feet of the donkeys as they carried the provisions toward David's approaching army. The landscape was rugged, filled with narrow valleys and rocky cliffs that hid travelers from one another until they were almost face to face. As Abigail rode behind her servants, she could not know exactly how much time remained. Every passing moment brought David closer to her home. Somewhere beyond the next hill marched 400 armed men. Somewhere behind her, her husband continued his celebrations, completely unaware that death was moving toward his house. And between those two worlds rode one woman carrying nothing but wisdom, humility, and faith. The journey must have felt longer with every step. She was not riding toward a welcoming banquet. She was riding toward an army fueled by anger. David had defeated lions and bears as a shepherd. He had slain Goliath before the armies of Israel. He had led soldiers into battle and returned victorious countless times. The men following him were experienced warriors who trusted his leadership without question. Yet Abigail did not turn back. The path eventually curved around the side of a hill, and there they were, David, 400 armed men, an army advancing toward destruction. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. The soldiers noticed the approaching caravan. Hands instinctively rested on sword hilts. Their eyes studied the travelers carefully. Then they saw Abigail. Without hesitation, she climbed down from her donkey. She did not remain seated as though she were equal to David in authority. She did not approach him with demands. She humbled herself. Falling on her face before him, she bowed to the ground. The gesture surprised everyone. A wealthy woman had lowered herself before a fugitive living in caves. But Abigail understood something that pride never learns. Humility has the power to open doors that force can never unlock. Then she began to speak. "My lord," she said, "let the blame be on me alone." Those words immediately changed the atmosphere. She was not accepting responsibility for Nabal's sin, nor was she pretending he had done nothing wrong. Instead, she was choosing to bear the burden of making peace. She placed herself between David's anger and the innocent people who would suffer because of it. She continued with remarkable honesty. Please pay no attention to that wicked man Nabal. He is just like his name. His name means fool, and folly goes with him. There was no attempt to excuse her husband's behavior. She acknowledged his foolishness openly, while carefully avoiding words that would stir David's anger even further. Then she explained why David's messengers had not been welcomed by her personally. I, your servant, did not see the young men my lord sent. Her voice remained calm, respectful, and sincere. But Abigail understood that apology alone would not be enough. David needed more than an explanation. He needed to remember who he truly was. Looking directly at the man whom God had secretly chosen to become Israel's king, she spoke words that reached far beyond the present conflict. The Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from taking revenge with your own hands. David listened silently. Abigail had not yet stopped the battle, but for the first time since leaving camp, she had caused him to pause. And sometimes, one moment of reflection is all God needs to change the course of history.
David stood in silence as Abigail continued speaking. Around them, the wind swept gently across the hills, carrying with it the scent of dry grass and grazing sheep. 400 armed men waited for their commander to give the order to continue toward Nabal's estate. No one dared interrupt. They had expected shouting. They had expected pleas born out of panic. Instead, they witnessed something far more powerful, a woman speaking with remarkable wisdom into the heart of a warrior consumed by anger. Abigail's voice never rose above a calm and steady tone, yet every word carried weight. And now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives and as you live, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who seek to harm you be like Nabal. She then gestured toward the servants carrying the provisions. Please accept this gift that your servant has brought for my Lord and his men. The servants stepped forward carefully, unloading the bread, the wine, the roasted grain, the prepared sheep, the raisins, and the cakes of pressed figs. It was enough food to satisfy hungry warriors who had spent months surviving in the wilderness. Yet Abigail knew the food itself was not the true gift. The greater gift was the opportunity she was placing before David, the opportunity to walk away from revenge. Then she spoke words that revealed the depth of her faith. Please forgive your servant's offense. The Lord will certainly make a lasting house for my Lord, because you fight the battles of the Lord. David's eyes remained fixed on her. She spoke of his future with confidence, not because she trusted circumstances, but because she trusted the God who had chosen him. Though Saul still wore Israel's crown, Abigail spoke as if David's kingdom were already certain. The Lord will make a lasting house for you. She believed God's promise even before it became reality. How remarkable it must have been for David to hear those words. For years he had been running from cave to cave, sleeping beneath the open sky, hiding from soldiers who wanted him dead. Some days the promise Samuel had spoken over him must have felt very distant. Yet here was a woman reminding him of the very thing his anger had almost caused him to forget. You have a future. You have a calling. You have a kingdom waiting for you. Do not allow one moment of rage to stain the destiny God has prepared. Abigail continued. Even though someone is pursuing you to take your life, the life of my Lord will be bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. Those words painted a beautiful picture. She was saying that God himself was holding David's life securely in his hands. No enemy could destroy what God had chosen to preserve. If God was protecting David, then David did not need to become his own avenger. Then she spoke of David's enemies. But the lives of your enemies he will hurl away as from the pocket of a sling. What a striking image. Years earlier, David had stood before Goliath with nothing more than a shepherd's sling and complete confidence in God. Abigail intentionally reminded him of that defining moment. Back then, David had trusted God completely. He had not relied upon anger. He had not depended on revenge. He had believed that the battle belonged to the Lord. Now she gently invited him back to that same faith. The future king lowered his eyes. The words were reaching places inside his heart that anger could no longer protect. Abigail was not merely preventing bloodshed. She was reminding David of who he truly was. She continued speaking. When the Lord has fulfilled for my Lord every good thing he promised concerning you, and has appointed you ruler over Israel, my Lord will not have on his conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed or of having avenged himself. Her words carried extraordinary wisdom. She asked David to think beyond today, beyond the insult, beyond the wounded pride. She invited him to imagine a future day when he would finally sit upon Israel's throne. Would he want to remember that he had murdered innocent servants because one foolish man had spoken harshly? Would that memory become a burden he could never erase? The question hung silently in the air. Every leader eventually discovers that today's emotional decisions often become tomorrow's deepest regrets. Abigail wanted to save David not only from committing a terrible act, but from carrying its weight for the rest of his life. Finally, she ended with quiet confidence. And when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, remember your servant. Then she fell silent. The hills became still. Even the soldiers seemed unwilling to move. Every eye turned toward David. Only moments earlier, he had been determined to wipe out an entire household. Now he stood face to face with truth. For several anger that had burned so fiercely within him began to fade. In its place came conviction. He realized that his wounded pride had nearly led him into sin. The future king of Israel had almost used the sword of justice to satisfy personal revenge. God had intervened, not through thunder from heaven, not through an angel with a drawn sword, but through the courage and wisdom of one faithful woman. At last, David spoke. His voice no longer carried the heat of anger. Instead, it carried gratitude. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you today to meet me. Those words revealed something important. David did not merely thank Abigail, he recognized God's hand behind the encounter. He understood that this meeting had not happened by accident. The Lord himself had arranged it. David continued, "May you be blessed for your good judgment." He openly acknowledged her wisdom before all 400 men. In a culture where military strength was greatly admired, David praised discernment instead of force. Then he confessed what had nearly happened. "You have kept me from bloodshed this day, and from avenging myself with my own hands." Those words were remarkably humble. Many leaders refuse to admit when they are wrong. David did the opposite. He publicly acknowledged that Abigail had rescued him from making a disastrous decision. He even declared before his soldiers that had she not come quickly, not one male in Nabal's household would have survived until morning. His honesty revealed why God called David a man after his own heart. David was not perfect. He made serious mistakes. But when confronted with truth, he was willing to repent. That willingness to receive correction would distinguish him throughout his life. David then accepted the provisions Abigail had brought. Looking at her with sincere appreciation, he said, "Go home in peace. I have heard your words and granted your request." Just like that, the army turned around. 400 swords that had been drawn for revenge remained sheathed. Feet that had marched toward bloodshed now walked away in peace. Hundreds of innocent lives were spared because one woman had the courage to speak when everyone else remained silent. As Abigail watched David and his men disappear into the distance, she must have felt both relief and exhaustion. The danger had passed. The massacre had been prevented. Yet another difficult conversation still awaited her. She returned home as evening settled across Carmel. From a distance, she could already hear the sounds of celebration. Music drifted through the air. Laughter echoed from the banquet hall. Servants hurried between tables carrying overflowing platters of food and large jars of wine. Inside the house, Nabal was hosting a feast worthy of a king. Completely unaware of the disaster that had nearly fallen upon his household, he celebrated as though life could never change. His face was flushed from excessive drinking. His speech was careless. The wine had clouded his judgment until he scarcely knew what was happening around him. Abigail looked at him quietly. There was no wisdom in speaking to a man whose mind was overcome by alcohol. Some truths must wait for the right moment. So she said nothing. She allowed the night to pass. Sometimes wisdom is not only knowing what to say, sometimes it is knowing when to remain silent. Morning arrived. The celebration was over. The music had faded. The servants returned to their duties. Nabal slowly recovered from his drunkenness. Only then did Abigail tell him everything. She described David's request. She explained how he had insulted the messengers. She told him about David's anger. She revealed that 400 armed warriors had been marching toward their home. Finally, she explained how close every man in the household had come to death. As Nabal listened, the color drained from his face. His expression changed from confusion to horror. For the first time, he understood the consequences of his own pride. The realization struck him like a blow. Scripture says that his heart failed within him, and he became like a stone. Whether through shock, terror, or a sudden illness, his strength left him completely. The arrogant man who believed himself untouchable suddenly found himself utterly helpless, and Abigail could only watch as events unfolded beyond anyone's control. Little did she know that God's justice was already at work in ways no human sword could ever accomplish.
For 10 long days, Nabal lingered between life and death. The once proud landowner who had spoken with such arrogance could no longer command his household with confidence. The man who had boasted about my bread, my water, and my meat now found himself unable to control even his own strength. Abigail remained at his side, carrying herself with the same dignity and compassion that had defined her throughout the crisis. Although Nabal's foolishness had nearly cost her everything, she did not respond with bitterness. She did not rejoice over his suffering or remind him of his mistakes. Instead, she fulfilled her responsibilities faithfully, demonstrating a heart that refused to be ruled by resentment. The household waited. Every sunrise brought uncertainty. Would Nabal recover? Would he finally recognize the seriousness of what had happened? Would this frightening experience humble his heart? No one knew. Then, on the 10th day, the waiting ended. The scriptures describe the moment with striking simplicity. The Lord struck Nabal, and he died. There was no battle, no assassin, no revenge carried out by David, no sword raised against him. The judgment David had nearly taken into his own hands was executed by God himself, in his own time and in his own way. It was a sobering reminder that justice ultimately belongs to the Lord. Human anger often acts too quickly. God never does. He sees every hidden motive, every careless word, every act of pride, and every injustice. His judgments are never driven by wounded emotions or personal revenge. They are perfectly righteous, perfectly measured, and perfectly timed. News of Nabal's death spread quickly throughout the region. Among shepherds and servants, conversations turned from fear to amazement. Many knew how close the household had come to destruction. They remembered the day David's army had been marching toward Carmel. They remembered the panic that had gripped the servants. They remembered Abigail riding alone to meet 400 armed men. Now everyone could see that what human wisdom had prevented, divine justice had completed. When word reached David, he paused. For several moments he reflected on everything that had happened. He remembered the insults. He remembered the burning anger that had consumed him. He remembered tightening his sword belt as he marched toward Nabal's house, convinced that revenge was justified. Then he remembered Abigail, her humility, her courage, her wisdom, and he realized just how close he had come to making a mistake that would have followed him for the rest of his life. Instead of praising himself for showing restraint, David lifted his eyes toward heaven and praised God. "Blessed be the Lord," he declared, "who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me with contempt. The Lord has kept his servant from doing wrong and has brought Nabal's wickedness down on his own head." Those words revealed a lesson David would carry throughout his life. If God is your defender, you do not have to become your own avenger. There are battles that belong to us, and there are battles that belong to God. Knowing the difference requires wisdom. David understood that Abigail had not merely saved Nabal's household. She had saved David from himself. She had protected his future as surely as she had protected her family. Had David slaughtered innocent servants in a moment of rage, that stain would have remained upon his conscience long after he became king. Instead, because one wise woman intervened, David's hands remained free from innocent blood. As the days passed, David found his thoughts returning to Abigail. Certainly, she was known for her beauty, but that was not what captured his heart. Beauty fades with time. Wisdom grows more valuable. David remembered the calm confidence with which she had faced an army. He remembered the courage it took for her to ride alone into danger. He remembered how she had spoken truth with humility, correcting him without disrespecting him. In all his years of fleeing from Saul, David had encountered brave soldiers, loyal companions, and faithful friends. But few people possess the rare combination of wisdom, discernment, humility, and courage that Abigail displayed that day. Eventually, David made a decision. He sent trusted messengers to Carmel with a proposal unlike any they had carried before. When they arrived, they approached Abigail respectfully. Their words were simple. "David has sent us to take you as his wife." For a moment, the request must have seemed almost unbelievable. Only days earlier, David had been marching toward her home with an army. Now he was asking her to become part of his household. Yet this was not the reward for saving his life, nor was it merely admiration for her beauty. David recognized something far greater. He recognized the character of a woman who feared God. Abigail's response reflected the same humility she had displayed from the very beginning. She bowed low with her face to the ground. Then she answered with words that revealed the true condition of her heart. "I am your servant, ready to wash the feet of my Lord's servants." There was no pride in her reply, no sense of self-importance. She did not speak as though she had rescued Israel's future king. Instead, she continued to see herself as a servant. True humility does not disappear after great achievements. It remains steady because it is rooted in character rather than circumstance. Soon, Abigail prepared for the journey. Accompanied by her servants, she left Carmel behind and traveled to join David. The woman who had once ridden alone to stop a massacre now entered the household of the man God had chosen to lead his people. Life with David would not always be easy. His years as a fugitive were not yet over. Saul still pursued him. Danger still surrounded him. The kingdom was still only a promise. Yet Abigail chose to walk by faith rather than by comfort. She was not marrying a king seated on a throne. She was marrying the man God had called to become king. There is an important difference. Many people are willing to follow success after everyone else can see it. Far fewer are willing to trust God's promises before they become visible. Abigail believed in God's future more than present circumstances. As David's journey continued, The memory of that extraordinary day remained with him. No doubt there were times when anger threatened to rise again. No doubt there were moments when revenge seemed justified. But the lesson Abigail taught him could never be forgotten. Wisdom is stronger than wrath. Humility is stronger than pride. Patience is stronger than revenge. Years later, David would rule over Israel. He would command armies. He would establish Jerusalem as the capital. His victories would become legendary. Yet hidden within that remarkable story lies one quiet moment that changed everything. A moment on a dusty road, a conversation between an angry warrior and a wise woman. A meeting arranged not by chance, but by the unseen hand of God. The story of Abigail is remarkable because there are no miracles in the way we often expect them. The sky did not open. Fire did not fall from heaven. The sea did not part. Instead, God performed a quieter miracle. He used wisdom to restrain anger. He used humility to overcome pride. He used one obedient woman to preserve the future of a nation. Sometimes God's greatest interventions come through ordinary acts of extraordinary obedience. One conversation, one decision, one act of courage. Those moments often change history more than we realize. Abigail could have remained silent. She could have stayed safely inside her home. What difference could one woman possibly make? Yet had she remained silent, innocent blood would almost certainly have been spilled before the next sunrise. Her courage reminds us that God often places ordinary people in extraordinary moments, not because they possess unusual power, but because they are willing to obey when everyone else hesitates. Abigail never commanded an army. She never wore a crown. She never sat upon a throne. She never led Israel into battle. Yet her wisdom protected the man who eventually would. History often remembers kings, warriors, and conquerors. God also remembers the peacemakers, the people who stop wars before they begin, the people who speak truth when emotions run high, the people who quietly preserve lives through faithfulness and courage. Abigail was one of those people. And through her story, Scripture reminds us that true strength is not always found in the hand that holds the sword. Sometimes it is found in the heart that chooses peace when anger seems easier. Sometimes the bravest person on the battlefield is not the one who fights. It is the one who prevents the battle. And perhaps that is why her story continues to inspire believers centuries later. Because every generation faces moments when pride demands revenge. Every generation encounters conflicts where emotions threaten to overpower wisdom. Every generation needs people willing to step into the gap before anger turns into destruction. The God who guided Abigail is still the same today. He still gives wisdom to those who ask. He still softens hearts that are willing to listen. He still turns disasters into testimonies. And he still delights in using unlikely people to accomplish extraordinary purposes. For the same God who positioned Abigail continues to position ordinary men and women exactly where they are needed most. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by divine purpose. Because even when his name seems hidden behind the ordinary events of life, his hand is never absent. He is always working, always guiding, always preparing, always redeeming. And just as Abigail discovered, one life surrendered to God can become the difference between judgment and mercy, between destruction and peace, and between a moment of anger and a legacy of faithfulness.